Today's video kicks off a brand new series for the channel. We'll be taking a look at the latest new releases for the Nintendo Switch, and eventually the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. There's 12 games lined up for today's video, so there's plenty to talk about this week, so let's just dive right into things. Jupiter Hell finally has arrived for the Switch after a 4-year wait. Look, there's another one that's taken a long time to arrive to consoles. Anyway, Jupiter Hell is a roguelike, turn-based style game that plays almost like the XCOM games in a way, and it combines that with shooter gameplay elements. See, this game is the spiritual successor to Doom, the roguelike, otherwise now known as DRL, and this game was developed by the same team too. If you played that game, then you're gonna love this one. Players play as a marine, a technician, or a scout as they try to survive in a demon-infested science base. Yeah, that scenario probably sounds pretty familiar. Players will need to defeat demons while also effectively using cover and adjusting their skill trees to make their character a demon-killing machine. This game got good reviews back when it first came out, with many praising the strategic gameplay and the various nods to the Doom franchise. This one has a launch sale discount too, taking 25% off the MSRP price in all regions until March 13th. X-Out Resurfaced is a remake of the classic Amiga shoot-'em-up, X-Out. The original game was notable for its shop system that allowed players to mix and match parts, weapons, and other stuff to basically build their own spaceship, and that aspect helped it to stand out from other shoot-'em-ups. The modern remake improves upon the shop system by hooking up players with pre-configured loadouts for those who just need ideas or just want to jump into the action, while also providing quality of life features that help to explain the items that are available to you and what they do. The remake features a new visual look, almost giving it a neon sort of look, as well as a new remix soundtrack with the legendary Chris Hallsbeck at the helm, cheat options for the cheaters out there, local co-op multiplayer, and more. I haven't personally checked out this game yet, but I do got it on my wish list, especially since I'm a shoot-'em-up fan and all, and I've heard some good things about the original game. Stories from Seoul. The Gun Dog is a visual novel adventure game that was made in the style of visual novel games that graced the PC-98 series of computers that were very popular in the Japanese market in the late 80s and throughout the 90s. This game follows a protagonist who, after losing his crewmates in a war, gets reassigned to the patrol ship Gun Dog, where its crew is tasked with investigating signals coming from the edge of space. Of course, that means that things aren't going to go to plan, and they are going to find themselves in danger real quick. To be honest, if they didn't, then the game wouldn't be worth playing now, would it? As the protagonist, you're going to need to explore, interact with the crew and the environments, find clues and key items and stuff, all that stuff that you traditionally would see in most point-and-click adventure games. So far, over the last few days, this game has done pretty well in reviews, with critics liking the story and the attention to detail to replicate the classic retro style with era-accurate visuals, detail, and gameplay. There's a demo on the eShop if you're curious. Star of Providence is a crazy top-down shoot-'em-up. In this game, you make your way through procedurally generated floors, taking on all types of enemies, trying to survive until you reach the end. This shoot-'em-up gameplay style in this one changes up often. Sometimes it's horizontal, sometimes it's vertical, sometimes the level takes place in an arena, and in addition to that, you get to mix and match different types of weapons and upgrades and more as you go further into the game. It's safe to say there's a lot of variety to the gameplay, and each run or playthrough will feel different. This is a game that originally came out for the PC only back in 2017, and it was a blast to play then. And I'm glad to see this finally got ported to a console, which at the moment seems only to be the Switch. The game is a great shoot-'em-up, it's addictive as hell, and I'm glad to see it made a comeback. It is one you need to check out if you're a shoot-'em-up fan. Pixel Cross Rune Factory is the follow-up to Pixel Cross Story of Seasons, where one of developer Marvelous's cozy game series gets combined with nonogram puzzles, more famously known as P-Cross. As silly as the concept might sound, I know it actually ended up working quite well for Pixel Cross Story of Seasons, so I imagine it's going to be the same case here with Pixel Cross Rune Factory. This game has over 450 puzzles to complete, different types of nanograms too, in all shapes and sizes. And in addition to completing those puzzles, you also gain the ability to obtain and capture monsters, as well as customize your farm, plant vegetables, and even find a marriage partner. Basically all the elements that we'd find in a Rune Factory game. Seems like a nice cozy game, and if you dig Rune Factory games, and you like Picross, then this might be worth checking out. Plus, it's pretty inexpensive too. The Plucky Squire gets a brand new physical edition, a deluxe edition, and this should already be in stores by the time this video is out. This edition includes a 108-page art book, plus digital soundtrack in a new case. It might be worth picking up if you're a physical Switch collector, and even better, this isn't being handled by limited run games. So that means it should be easy to obtain. That said though, the standard physical edition should already be available, and you should be able to pick that up in all regions. And of course, this game can be found in the eShop too. Plucky Squire is a pretty cool game that follows the adventures of a character named Jote and his friends in a storybook, and it has you jumping between 2D and 3D worlds as you explore and complete challenges and puzzles in a quest to become a hero. Visually, it's a pretty impressive game that has you playing in different scenarios. Sometimes you're in the pages of a storybook or a pop-up book, or exploring through objects like toys and whatnot. It's pretty cool. I just wish that they would release a demo for it. I think that would hook more potential players in if they did. Ninja 5-0, also known as Ninja Cop in Power Regions, was a game originally released on the Game Boy Advance back in 2003. Developed by Sunsoft, it became a bit of a cult hit, as well as a very sought-after and expensive game to obtain for the system. In this game, players are tasked with taking control of Joe Osugi, a ninja, and you must use his abilities to stop terrorists and rescue hostages. After all these years, it finally gets a re-release for modern platforms with the typical set of quality of life features, that being save states, rewind support, and etc. I'm glad it's getting a re-release, but I will say the price tag is a bit higher than I expected for a re-release like this, especially when you compare it to how Konami has priced their Castlevania Game Boy and DS collections and the like. Konami comes in clutch with a double release this week. Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection arrives on the Switch on the 27th, both on the eShop and in a physical release, which for North America, the physical release will come with one of two quarter-century secret rare Harpy's Feather Duster TCG cards, which is a neat bonus for those who collect those cards. The collection itself is pretty cool, as it contains 14 games in all from the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. A lot of these games have been translated into English for the first time ever. Only Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 6 is in Japanese, but technically the Yu-Gi-Oh! Worldwide Edition, which is included in the set, allows you to play the game in all languages anyway. So technically this is a collection of 13 games. Beyond the games, you can duel online, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 4, and more games will receive online support in the future. In addition, this collection has save state support and rewind support, a digital gallery, and the ability to customize the games to your desire. For example, you can choose to remove deck capacity, adjust duelist level, add and remove cards from the forbidden and limited list, unlock hidden characters and secret cards, and more. That's actually a pretty cool feature. It seems like they put a nice amount of effort into this collection, and I'm definitely excited to check it out when it arrives later this week. Now, Bakeru has been out for the West since late last year, but finally, the physical edition arrives later this week after a long wait. I've always said if they did a physical release, I would get it day one. I'm a man of my word. This is a fantastic 3D platformer from developer Goodfeel, which has worked on and developed a number of Nintendo first-party games over the years. The gameplay and aesthetic is inspired by Konami's Goemon series, and has you playing as Bakeru, who is on a quest to defeat the evil Oracle and his festive troops. armed with a drum, drumsticks, and magical transforming powers. You'll need to beat the bad guys up to save the day. The stages are fun to explore and play through. There's loads of collectibles to find within them, and there's lots of variety to them too, to help shake things up. I love the Japanese festival aesthetic, and at times how bonkers and crazy and over the top the game can be. If you like 3D platformers, then I consider this to be a game that you must check out. It's fun as heck, and it's worth the price tag in my opinion. Glover was a 3D platformer that came out for the PlayStation 1 and then 64 back in the day. It's a unique game to say the least, as you play as a glove who needs to bounce and transport crystal balls in order to save the day, as well as save a wizard who created him, and to stop a evil glove counterpart. Well anyway, Glover is back with a new modern port that is seemingly based off the N64 version. And this version features a higher resolution now, with an option for widescreen display, leaderboard support, and filters and such to recreate that classic feel. This originally came out for the PC, I think a couple years ago, and it's been a long while coming, but it's finally coming out on Switch and other platforms on February 27th. Now I'll be honest though, the original game was something that I found pretty frustrating back in the day. It's a hard platformer, and that's pretty much due to its unique control mechanics. It's so easy to goof up in, but I know that some really do like this game, and I'm sure they're hyped to see this back. At the very least, I'm thankful it's based off the N64 version, because that one controls so much better compared to the PS1 version. PS1 version was just god-awful. Freddy Farmer is the latest game from Flynn's Arcade, a publisher we've covered on this channel many times before for their new retro arcade-style games that are typically value-priced. Games like Donut Dodo and Murtop. In this game you play as Freddy, a farmer who is on a quest to save his daughter who has been kidnapped by an evil dragon. To rescue her, he needs a magic potion that only a wizard can make, and he needs to gather ingredients for it. So as him, you are tasked with gathering all the ingredients in a stage in order to advance to the next one. The trick here is, you got to gather them in a certain order that the game tells you to do, and then reach the cauldron to complete the stages. The gameplay reminds me a bit of Burger Time, and maybe even Pitfall to a degree. You gotta climb ladders, swing on vines, and jump over and avoid baddies while collecting those ingredients. There's 35 stages across 7 worlds to tackle, with 2 different endings to discover, as well as bonus levels, unlockable minigames, and more to discover. Honestly, it's kinda impressive for a game so cheap. If you like the retro stuff, then this might be worth checking out. Finally, another classic Sunsoft game is making its way to the Switch this week. This time, it's the Super Famicom game, Justice Ninja Casey, which gets its first English release ever. It's a beat-em-up game where you play as a ninja who is trying to save a princess who has been kidnapped. Yeah, honestly, the story is that simple, but I mean, it's a beat-em-up. You don't really need a complex story for beat-em-ups. Anyway, what separates this from other beat-em-up games, at least from the 16-bit era, is beyond the traditional beat-em-up gameplay mode. There is a quest mode that includes light RPG elements, like a level-up system, quests to take on, equipments to obtain, and branching paths to discover throughout the stages. Sounds pretty cool. Beyond that, this release includes the typical modern quality of life features, save states, screen filters, rewind support, and a digital gallery to browse, and a jukebox where you can listen to the soundtrack. It'll be available for a pretty cheap price in all regions on the 28th of February. And there you go. That's the highlights from the latest new releases for the Switch from both last week and for games coming out this week. Are you planning to pick up any of these games? If you are, let me know down below in the comments. I know I'm eyeing the physical releases of Bakeru and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Collection myself. I think these potentially might be my first physical Switch games for 2025. That's actually kind of surprising. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll catch you real soon on the next video.